morning, fam. It's Erica with Not Your Average EDC. And today we have the week 3 update on the testing of the Benchmade VS Hogue ordeal. Lots of exciting stuff to share with you guys. Sorry that I didn't get this uploaded on Friday like I was supposed to. I had like the busiest weekend ever, and I didn't even get to record this until now. So yeah, this was supposed to be up on Friday, but there's a lot going on. Lots of good stuff. So this is not the review, obviously. This is just the week 3 update. The review will be done next week after 1 month of consecutive testing for all of these. And we just do an update every week, right? To see what happens. So the week 3 update this time is on sharpening. I finally got around to sharpening all of these knives yesterday. And that's really a huge part of reviews. In my opinion, on Erica's Planet, you cannot review a knife if you have not used the factory edge and then taken that completely off and used a fresh edge. They can be 2 totally different worlds, and you cannot review a knife if you have not done that. You can't. So we sharpened all of these last night, and the sharpening was really interesting, so let's get into that. With the Deca and the mini RSK and the bug out, we did a 1000 grit traditional Nanawa waterstone and then a strop with green compound. With the mini grip, we did a 600 grit DMT stone and a strop with green compound. So the only difference between this and these was just the stone. The reason being, this is an M4, and I did try the 1000 grit Nanawa just for shits and giggles. I knew it wouldn't actually do anything, and it did not move the steel. So I did have to go to a 600 grit diamond for this. But that's the only reason it didn't have the same stone as these. It wouldn't move that material. So, but they all went on the same strop, got the exact same amount of passes per side, blah, 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 for science. So, we have the Benchmade mini grip in M4. We have the Hogue Deca in Magna Cut from the first run when it was only like 60 to 61, right? So very low heat treat on this from the first run. They have updated that, and now it's like 62 or 63 or something like that, or 61 to 63. Either way, this is the dog shit soft one, right? 20 CV on this one, and S30V on the bug out. So the first one I did was the Benchmade bug out on the traditional waterstone, the Nanawa stone, okay? This one I have sharpened before, and the sharpening I recorded, and it was very easy, and it took all of 10 minutes to remove the factory edge and put a just screaming edge on it. Last night, when I sharpened it, it was way more difficult to sharpen for some reason. Even though I was doing the same progression as the first time I sharpened, it was more difficult. It just took longer to move through the progression. Very interesting. And that's exactly why it's so important before you review a knife to get some sharpening in and actually work with the edge, because it can continuously change. You cannot review a knife and make a blanket statement if you haven't actually used it or sharpened it. And that's why it's so important, because I recorded my sharpening of this. I ground the edge into a coffee cup and then redid the whole edge. It took all of 10 minutes. Last night it took like 20 or 25 just to get this thing finished on the Nanawa stone. Because I'm getting through to the true S30V, I think. S30V is not difficult to sharpen, but it can take a longer time than some other steels that are made for ease of sharpening. And that's why this has been reiterated so many times with S35V and S45V and Magna Cut, right? Ease of sharpening, really trying to dial that in and minimize that time. So last night, this took longer than it ever has to sharpen. But great sharpening experience, just took a little bit longer. Just took a little longer to burr up, but the edge is beautiful. Very sharp now. Just took longer. That's all. Then I did the Hogue in 20 CV on the Nanawa stone. This was really interesting. So This only took like 5 minutes to sharpen. I mean, this was absolutely a dream. And I will say both of these blade profiles, sharpening, really, really nice. It's just easy, really hard to kind of mess up on this type of blade shape. It's just very easy to sharpen. So the 20CV, absolutely a dream to sharpen. Loved the way the burr came up, very apparent, but concentrated, which I like. Some of the stuff you guys might not get if you don't sharpen your knives. I'm not saying that as a condescending statement. I'm just saying like the adjectives I'm using to describe the burr, you just might not get it. But the burr was really nice and very like compact and strong, which I like. It, in my opinion, that is telling me that this has great edge stability, which it has this entire testing. I actually really like this 20CV from Hogue. It's been outperforming everything in most aspects. So the sharpening was absolutely fantastic, very easy to work with, took a very small amount of time to sharpen this. I really liked how the burr came up, and I really liked how this blade shape moved on the stone. It was very easy to work with, even with that belly. Just very minimal room for error to mess up. So this was absolutely great. Then I went to the Hogue Deca in Magna Cut on the 1000 grit nanowatt stone. This was, it took me just a few passes to kind of get used to that compound grind. I've stated before, I'm not sharpening these as two different edges. Once I got to the, transition area here, I would just tilt the knife a little bit and finish off. This blade shape, I think for most people is going to be a hassle to sharpen, especially freehand, because it's two very straight edges. And at least for me, my mind wants to flow during freehand. I very much want to flow with the edge and the blade shape. And this is not a flowing, this is a very stiff, like pay attention. You're sharpening this part of a razor blade and this part of a razor blade, and I really don't enjoy that. So the more that time goes on, I am realizing that I enjoy this blade shape in use, and I very much do not enjoy this blade shape in sharpening. I really don't. But it wasn't too difficult. It just took more attention to detail for me. Now this sharpened the fastest out of all of them. Burr came up within like 1 or 2 passes. Convenient, yes, but the burr that I felt I did not like. It felt very spacious and not stable. It felt like I just didn't like it. It was very toothy, but too toothy to the point where I was feeling that it just wasn't stable enough to actually keep. So just continuing to reiterate what I've said, this Magna Cut being treated so low, just not a good idea. So I'm glad that they changed that, because it just, it felt unstable to me. But took a sharp edge. It is ready to go. Really quick to work with, even for that blade shape. But man, if you're looking for ease of sharpening, no, not with this. Not if you're doing freehand. If you have an angle system, way easier, but just too much attention to detail trying to work with that blade shape. But only took a few minutes, like maybe 3 minutes to finish this. So really, really quick. And then the M4 on the mini grip here, I used the 600 grit diamond stone, the DMT stone, and this moved very quickly. Really like this. Wicked toothy edge, but very compact and concentrated and stable. I absolutely love M4. I love how long it keeps a toothy edge, and the ease of sharpening for me has always been great. I just love this. I really do love M4. I think it's a great working steel. I don't mind that it is not stainless. It has a crazy toothy edge right now. It just was wicked easy to work with, and I feel that this edge is like a very strong edge. Out of all of these, this has kind of the most stable, strong, like beater edge in my opinion, right? I love how this came up. So this was a breeze to sharpen. Obviously I could feel on the stone that this was a little thicker than its competitors, and you just feel that the burr is different because of that. You have a lot of material behind that edge, so that definitely was super apparent, and it didn't really change anything. You just really got to pay attention to your burr, because sometimes it could be harder to feel just because this is such a thick stock. But super easy, very nice to sharpen, and that blade shape, again, incredible for sharpening. Really, really nice. So then all of them went over to just a strap with green marbles compound. All of them like kind of semi-polished up very, very well. The stropping experience was great. Still having that issue with not being able to remove those thumb studs. Okay, I shouldn't say that. I haven't tried to remove these because I don't know if I can, and I don't want to damage them. You can obviously remove the Benchmade thumb studs, so that makes the sharpening and stropping way easier. These were getting in the way and hanging up, so I did have to just be aware of that in working with both of these Hogue knives. But stropping was great. They all came up with really beautiful edges. So, yeah, M4, you may have to use diamonds. You just need something pretty tough to move that material. But the other ones, you can get a 1000 grit stone and it should work just fine. Now, in performance, the last week, I have pretty much ditched the idea of comparing the mini grip to the mini RSK. And just for anyone kind of like tuning in here at this point, the reason these were going head to head at first was because we all know that Benchmade was working with Doug Ritter to make this knife through Benchmade, but then they kind of abandoned that and he went over to Hogue to make this. And there is a version of the mini grip with the Hogue or the Doug Ritter blade. There is a version of this. It's very rare, but there is a mini grip with this blade shape that floats around, right? And it was kind of like a hybrid between these two, and then the whole thing got abandoned. So these have always been very much compared because they were supposed to be kind of like one. That's why these were going head to head at first. However, in use, they're just absolutely not even close to the same thing other than the handle. Now, again, another thing that I have debunked through my testing that I stated at first. I thought these were going to be super similar at the beginning of the testing, especially because they look very similar and the handle is nearly identical. But in use and in performance, especially with that blade difference, completely opposite to the point where I cannot compare them any longer. So you have to use your stuff to be able to make statements. Otherwise, you're living in play pretend land. So halfway through the testing, I realized it makes way more sense to put these two head to head. They have a much more similar blade shape, overall length, and performance. So I've been using these two a lot side to side because in reality, the mini grip is getting discontinued and nobody's going to want this anymore anyway. It's also not comparable to any of these. And the Deca is very similar to the Bug Out, but between the blade shape and this heat treat not even being real life anymore and all that, this just doesn't, I mean, going into week 3 of testing, this is almost irrelevant, right? We've kind of like tuned this out at this point. We already know all we need to know about that. So the real head to head, the real like meat and potatoes of this testing now is kind of these two, which is completely changed from the beginning. These are super comparable, and I think this is going to be the most interesting point in the review is which one is better, which one is worth your money, the Bug Out or the Mini RSK, because they're so comparable. So I've been using these side by side a lot, right, the past week. Oh man, both of them are absolutely phenomenal. But guys, I'm telling you right now, you know I love the Bug Out, but this is really shining in every single aspect of my testing. This is the one I want to keep using. When I have 4 knives to choose from every day, working on the campers, doing a bunch of hard work, this is the one that I want to use in every aspect. Ergonomics, blade shape, sharpening, edge retention. This is the one I want to use over and over again. Really, really nice. Now, one thing that kind of popped into my mind during the testing was what could I compare these to that are higher end, right? Because a lot of people don't like FRN. A lot of people want bougie, right? A lot of people want that. And very much what kind of came to mind was Sebenza versus Nkosi. Another testing and review I have really gone in depth with. So, in using the Bug Out and the Mini RSK, it really reminded me of like a small Sebenza versus small Nkosi deal. You have more length on the Sebenza and a longer, kind of slimmer blade with a little less belly. On the small Nkosi, you have a smaller package, a little more sturdy, robust feeling, a little more like blade height type deal, and more belly. Totally reminded me of the Bug Out versus Mini RSK deal. I really feel that these are super similar. Look at that blade shape. Right? And I lined them up and they're really reminiscent of each other, especially with that belly. It's just, these remind me a lot of each other. And even in feel, like if you're, when you're comparing these two and using them, you just feel that the Nkosi is purposely overbuilt. It's got those oversized washers, oversized pivot, just a tank of a little knife. And you feel that it's more robust than the Sebenza. Same thing with the Bug Out versus Mini RSK. In use, when using these, you feel that these wolf springs are a hair thicker. You feel that this blade shape is more robust and kind of just ready for harder work. More sturdy. The blade shape, you have more belly on the Mini RSK. You don't have as much length. So this Bug Out really thins out at that tip. It's very thin behind the edge. Not so much with the Mini RSK. It thins out enough to slice. Don't get me wrong. This is an incredible slicer. But this is much more robust, ready for harder work than the Bug Out. This swedge here really thins out that tip. You don't have that with this. So it really reminded me of when I was testing the Sebenza and Nkosi. It was either a year or 2 years ago. I can't recall, but I did test both of these, and it super reminded me of this comparison, and kind of what it boils down to is, what are you using your knife for, right? What are you going to actually use it for? If you're looking for a super slicer, a super slicer with really thin stock and just thin behind the edge, Bug Out. If you're looking for something more robust, a little overbuilt, beefy, reliable, just sturdy, Mini RSK. So that was really fun to kind of realize in my testing and sharpening. Again, sharpening the Sebenza, you have just a very kind of like straight edge to work with there. Just elongated, nice and straight, super easy to sharpen, but that doesn't mean that the Nkosi is difficult. It has a little more belly when you're sharpening. It just moves a little different on the stone. So it just really reminded me of that, and I think that's going to be pretty relevant when we do the review of these, because these are super comparable, and I very much think it's going to be like a what do you prefer? Everyday slicey, or kind of like everyday slicey plus hard use. I think that's what it's going to really come down to. So that was a really fun week because I was using these like crazy. I love them all. I love them all, but these two, I'm really excited to tell you which one I think you should put your money toward next week. I'm sure you're already kind of getting an idea here. I think I'm doing a spoiler alert for myself. But man, these are fantastic options, guys. And I have absolutely fallen in love with this one, with the Mini RSK. This is absolutely fucking genius, really. And I will say, just getting into philosophy of like supporting companies as a whole here, every time I've posted a picture of this on Instagram, every single time I've posted anything about this, Doug Ritter himself, within 30 seconds of me posting this, will always comment on my photo and then half the time repost. I very much like that interaction. I really like when companies know that the only fucking reason they're making money is because of us and they appreciate us. I love that. I very much like when makers and companies take the time to acknowledge that every purchase that we make is putting food on their table. I really like that. And Doug seems like an incredible guy, constantly reposting people's pictures, not only mine, and constantly commenting saying, thank you for making that purchase. Thank you for supporting me. I really like that. You do not get that from Benchmade. You do not get that. I've been posting pictures of Benchmades for like 5 fucking years. No acknowledgement. They reposted one photo of mine once. No acknowledgement, and they would never dream of sending me a knife or wanting to work with me because I'm honest. Benchmade is a fucking joke. Go on Instagram, look at the pictures that they post of like the pretend hunting and the pretend shit. And if you click on the people that they usually post the pictures from, they have like maybe 1,000 followers usually. They're not even like real like content creators. They like, it's just mind-blowing how they can't really post people really using their stuff for the most part. They're getting a little better lately. Like, they've been posting pictures of a guy, like, a hunter with his dog. And, like, I do know that guy is a real hunter with his dogs and stuff. But, like, generally speaking, like, they won't take pictures of people that actually use their knives. And they won't work with people that actually use their knives. They want you to be a tabletop reviewer. And they won't post like dirty pictures. They're staged. That's what I'm trying to say. They're staged to promote their products. They stage using the knife, do play pretend, and what you would do if you had it. And they work with people with no following that they know will say yes ma'am, yes sir, I will do this and that for your page. That's what Benchmade does. Not with Hogue. Constant real life pictures of actual use and actual knives being used. Go to Doug Ritter's page. Constant reposts of people all over the world using his knives. And the reposts of them actually being used. Videos of them actually being used. It's mind-blowing. Not staged. It's great. So Doug really actually wants you to use his knives and give genuine feedback and reach out to Hogue and give genuine feedback. I have seen it. I have seen the emails. I have seen the conversations. Hogue literally is like, yes, we hear you. Yes, we hear you. Yes, we're going to work on that. Doug, yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So in terms of wanting to support a company that actually gives a fuck about you as the consumer, Hogue all the way. Benchmade is a joke. And that's why I have said over and over, I'm abandoning Benchmade. After this testing, we're not buying any more Benchmades. We're not. They are stupid. They make no sense. They're play pretend. Hogue is real life. And no, I do not get paid or given anything from either company, obviously. I have never been reached out to by Hogue or Doug Ritter or anything to like promote their products. Doug does not know who I am other than just a typical Instagrammer who posts about his stuff and he reposts it, right? This is not like a paid promotion. This is just real life. So just something to think about in terms of moving forward and supporting companies that actually give a shit about you. Ding, ding, ding. Hogue, Hogue, Hogue. Doug Ritter, Doug Ritter, Doug Ritter. Yeah. Okay. So that's all for today, guys. That's a week 3 update. Really enjoying this testing this month, and I'm so excited to move into the testing for next month because going old school traditional is going to be fucking ballsy and awesome. But I couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you so much for the support. Go use your shit. Learn how to sharpen your knives for the love of cheesy rice. Go learn how to sharpen your knives, please. You cannot do a review unless you have sharpened it. I promise. I will see you guys soon. Love you all.